Agricultural education teachers often find themselves with unique opportunities to inspire the future. Whether it's teaching about sustainable farming practices, economic and environmental concerns, or how young people can make a difference in the world of agriculture, the role of an ag teacher can be very influential. Students with a strong interest in the animal science industries will need to be taught the newest and most effective principles that will affect animal reproduction. One of those very important concepts is optimizing economic potential through the use of superior genetics and artificial insemination. In order for students to grasp these concepts fully and to understand them, they must first start with the basics of animal reproduction. An ag teacher once found themselves in this exact position of teaching about animal reproduction and being an educator with an influential opportunity ahead of them. This is what they wrote to a fellow educator. I watched as my student gazed across the pasture at his farm. I knew what he was thinking. One day. Yep, for this man it was true. For this young man, one day, all that he had known all his life would be handed over to him to continue. Much like the rights of the throne of some great country, his turn to make the decisions for the future of those who called his farm home would soon be a reality. He longed for the day known as one day. But not unlike the young teen sons from a faraway royal family, he's not quite ready. He knows how to operate the machinery, run the poultry houses, and fix almost anything. However, there are few things left for him to learn. His grandma won't turn over the books until completely necessary, so learning all the details of the financial realm of his soon-to-be world will have to wait. His grandpa still does all the social work. He is always busy trading services and goods with others as a way to continue the tradition of rural America. Neighbor helping neighbor. And then there's the business of the cattle. My student's favorite part of the farm is the cattle. He's constantly caring for the cows, whether feeding, watering, or vaccinating, or any other number of random cattle farm chores. But despite his experience with the cattle industry, there is always that birds and the bees question of how. Novice he is not. He was raised around the farm and knows how, but not really. The physical and visual story is all too familiar. Cattle, chickens, hogs, or horses, the act is all the same. But with today's advances in reproductive technologies, he wants to be able to maximize the potential of increased availability of genetics for his herd. Increased quality of genetics means better results for his herd, his farm, and his family. Using those advancements means a higher likelihood that he can pass on the tradition of the family farm to his children, rather than watching developers turn his history into another subdivision where the only remnants of its former farming glory are the names of the cul-de-sacs. He turns to me without saying a word. I know where my part in this agricultural screenplay belongs. He is the practical application of everything agriculture, where I epitomize everything agriculturally scientific. With a limited farming background, I can offer few suggestions as to how the practical end should work, but I can offer the scientific, the veterinary reasoning as to how and why things happen. I know that the next time I see this young man, our roles will have turned. I'll be the one gazing over everything that I have come to know, the culmination of varied experiences that have been bound together in one individual, in order to pass on the love and enthusiasm for one industry that touches every human on earth, agriculture. He is but a visitor on my plot of land, known as the classroom. My one day stares back at me from his chair. My one day is knowing that the students will one day be those that are making the decisions, choosing how our world continues. One day is our future, the future of agriculture, and it is not my job to feed the cows, but to feed the minds of those that will help carry on successfully in the future. After all, isn't that the job of any teacher? Student farmers, cultivators of the mind, and harvesters of the future. That's what teachers are. With no further ado, I begin my lesson with great anticipation. It is a subject that I love and one that could have a huge impact on the young man who has so much ahead of him and so much to lose. With a strong dose of professionalism, while maintaining an air of total approachability, I begin. When faced with the task of educating students about animal reproduction, there are several key factors to keep in mind. 1. Start with the basics, such as anatomy and terminology. 2. Explain the process clearly and accurately. 3. Keep it relevant. Show the importance of the information and how it can be used. And 4, keep it serious, yet fun. Reproduction is a mature subject, but it can be one of the most scientifically significant subjects that can be taught. Keeping them interested with an attitude of relaxed, comfortable professionalism is very important. Now that we've discussed how to approach and teach animal reproduction, let's use one unit, the estrus cycle, to show some of the things that can be done to instruct animal science topics. We'll review the basics of the subject matter and end with an example of how to make the subject seriously fun.
Alright, first, within the brain, lots of different things occur in the pituitary gland. One of the first signals that occurs is the amount of light that comes down, and the temperature and other factors encourage the reproductive system to start to work. Depending on the season, the first thing that's going to occur is the brain is going to send a message down through the body. From the pituitary gland, it's going to send a hormone called FSH. FSH is going to affect the ovary, and it's going to tickle the ovaries and tickle the ovaries and tickle the ovaries and create a lot of follicles. And as those follicles start to grow, the reproductive system then sends the next hormone, which is estrogen. And estrogen flows throughout the body of the horse, influencing not only the brain, but the rest of the body in its behavior to create the examples of heat. Standing heat, flagging the tail, basically letting the other individuals know that she's ready to breed and to have a baby. The next hormone, once estrogen flows throughout the body, is a hormone from the brain called luteinizing hormone. So from the brain, luteinizing hormone goes down, and what it's going to do is it's going to affect that one dominant follicle that took over when it was stimulated, called the Graafian follicle, and it's going to lyse open that Graafian follicle. That then creates this bursting effect, and the bursting effect is the corpus hemorrhagicum. The corpus hemorrhagicum oozes out the egg, and the egg is then ready to fertilize. Within this area, the egg is floating through as it's ready to be fertilized. The corpus hemorrhagicum, which is the busted body, then is able to produce a new body, a new yellow body called the corpus hemorrhagicum. The corpus hemorrhagicum, located on the ovary, then kicks out a hormone called progesterone. And progesterone goes throughout the body to maintain pregnancy. So if there's a baby, this is what maintains the pregnancy, which is progesterone. If there is no baby is found, and the brain after approximately 14 days realizes that there is no baby, then it kicks out one last hormone called PGF2 alpha that then stops the cycle dead in its tracks and starts the whole thing over again. Back from the pituitary gland, back down to the ovaries, back throughout the body, back and forth. It goes the entire process.
Here we go. Hormones, and the estrus cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, and the estrus cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Here's a story about a student named Travis. A novice he is not. He was raised on a farm, so he knows a lot. But there's one little thing he wasn't sure about. The estrus cycle can be broken down into parts. The estrus and the diestrus. No, that's not too hard. The estrus is commonly known as heat. That means the female is ready to breed. Hormones, and the estrus cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, and the estrus cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Starts out as a signal sent out from the brain, FSH from the pituitary gland. It reaches the ovaries of the female, starts a bunch of follicles until one prevails. The ovaries right back with a ton of estrogen, producing some heat and signaling men. hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. The brain sounds like the next one to do its thing. Luteinizing hormone taking over the reins. It sets free the ovule, trapped inside within the graphene follicle in which it resides. The egg is now free to roam about the cabin. The follicle is broken, it was supposed to happen. Corpus hemorrhagicum, that's how the words are spoken. It really is real, you know I'm not joking. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. The corpus luteum now becomes the newest feature and prepares for a pregnancy, a very wanted creature. Kicking out progesterone to keep things going. The ovaries don't stop until they start knowing they ain't no pregnancy, they've lost this game. But PGF2 alpha makes it happen all again. Hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael. Hormones, hormones, and the estrous cycle. If you could learn this, you'd be bad like Michael.